guys, it is time for another book haul. So without further ado, let me show you the books I've picked up this month. I was actually in London for a long weekend this month and I picked up a few books when I was there as I was with my friend Jill, and it was so difficult not to buy more because she is such an avid book buyer and reader that she just found so many lovely books. I was like, oh my god, I can only buy a few. But I managed to resist and keep it to quite a low number, thankfully. One I did buy though was one that she originally picked out, and after reading the blurb I was just super intrigued and wanted to pick it up myself. This is published by Pushkin Press and it is The Chateau D'Argol by Julian Gracque. That's probably being pronounced completely wrong. From what I can gather from the blurb, this is a kind of gothic story about a man in a secluded and empty mansion, and his friend comes to visit and he brings with him this sort of seductive, mysterious woman, and I will go on from there and I imagine a gothic vein. I had absolutely never heard of this book before, but it just grabbed my attention, and not to mention this lovely little edition. Next up is a book I have already read, and I have actually read many times in my life, and that is The Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. And I do own an old paperback of this somewhere in my parents' attic, but we uncovered these gorgeous new hardback editions of all of Roald Dahl's children's stories that have been released, reappropriating the original Quentin Blake illustrations and all in a lovely different bold colour. And since The Fantastic Mr. Fox is my favourite, I had to start with this one, but I can promise you now I will be picking up more of these lovely little hardback editions in the future. Next is a book that I bought almost for the experience as much as the book, and this is because Jill and I went to Persephone Books, which is in London, and they are the publishers of these lovely grey editions of sort of lesser known and underappreciated female authors, and they do this sort of nondescript grey cover to kind of encapsulate that with a simple title here, and then inside they all have different patterned end papers specifically for that story. I've always wanted a Persephone book, but I wanted to buy it from the Persephone bookshop, and in this instance I got The Blank Wall by Elizabeth Sankey Holding. I hadn't heard of this book at all before either, but I thought it sounded really good. There was a recommendation quote from the original time by Raymond Chandler, who is quite the prolific and famous mystery writer, so I thought if he liked it, that's a good sign. And this is a kind of suspense mystery story about a mother, I think, who may murder her daughter's stalker. But I just think Persephone Publishing is such a wonderful idea, and they do a really good thing, so I'm excited to read one of their books. This book was also originally published in 1947 if you're interested. Next I got a couple of kind of comic book type graphic novels, and one is by Isabel Greenberg, who wrote the Encyclopedia of Early Earth, which you've probably seen on my channel before, and it was a massive big graphic novel and it was amazing, so I was really keen to buy this when I saw it. And it's a sort of comic book with illustrated versions by Isabel Greenberg of some of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales, and she is such a beautiful illustrator, and I cannot wait to experience more of her artwork because so far the Encyclopedia of Early Earth is the only thing I've read by her. And then I have a few books that were sent to me by publishers to show you, the first being The Boy with the Tiger's Heart, published by Hotkey Books and written by Linda Coggin. Now this is beautiful, this is such a beautiful book, and you will have seen it in my last edition of beautiful covers. This kind of reminds me of the Jungle Book in a way. Apparently the main character was raised by dogs, who is running from the authorities and appears to have a bunch of animal friends that help her flee to safety. And as you might have guessed, this is actually a children's book, but it seems to be on the slightly darker and more mysterious side of children's books, so I'm excited to give this one a go. And sticking with the children's books, I also was sent this book published by Piccadilly, and it's by Julie Berry, and it's called The Scandalous Sisterhood of Prequel Place. And I just thought this sounded like so much fun. It's a kind of mystery set in an all-girls boarding school, what sounds a bit like a finishing school actually, and it sounds quite comical and fun, and I'm just kind of wanting to get into more children's literature. I have been for a while now. I want to I want to get that feeling back, so hopefully these books help me with that. But moving on from the children's literature, I was also sent Wolf Winter by Cecilia Echbach. This, as you might be able to tell, is a mystery novel. And I was sent this by Hodder and Stoughton, and it's by a Swedish author who lives in the UK and I believe was originally written in English. And it's about a man who has been murdered and his body was discovered by two young girls, but despite the consensus being that a wolf has killed him, the cuts and the murder just seem to look a little too clean. It has a lot of excellent recommendations and I do love my mysteries. And last but not least, I was sent Holy Cow by David Duchovny, published by Headline Press, and yes, this is the actor who was in X-Files and many other things of course as well, and this is his first novel. But essentially this is a comic story following a group of farm animals who've decided to flee the farm because they've realised what is going to happen to them eventually. I started this one already and I have yet to make up my mind because although it is very well written, it's almost like a stream of consciousness from a cow because the cow is the narrator and I've yet to be comfortable with it, but I am only like 20 pages in, so I think it'll just take a bit for me to get used to. But I think this is just one of those books you've got to go into with quite an open mind and it should have quite a few laughs in it. But those are all the books that I have purchased and been sent recently. If you've read any of them, I'd love to hear your thoughts on where I should start because, as always, overwhelming number of books surrounds me at this moment. But for now that is all, so in the meantime, happy reading and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye guys!